esteemed guests, faculty members, research scholars, dear students, and alumni. Today, we are privileged to be in the presence of a true luminary in the fields of psychology and gerontology, Dr. Indira Jai Prakash, ma'am. It's rare to find an individual whose influence spans academia, research, and global advocacy with such profound impact. Ma'am is not just a scholar, she is a trailblazer who has redefined the way we understand aging, mental health, and human behavior. Her journey in academia began with excellence. She earned her master's degree in psychology from Mysore University, where she was awarded the gold medal, a sign of the brilliance that would define her career. She went on to pursue her diploma in medical and social psychology at the prestigious NIMANS, earning the esteemed Dr. H.N. Murthy Award. However, her true passion lay in the study of aging, and she went on to complete her PhD under the guidance of Dr. Vinoda N. Murthy, ma'am, setting the stage for her lifelong commitment to gerontology. Dr. Indira Jai Prakash, ma'am, joined the Department of Psychology at Bangalore University in 1977, embarking on an remarkable journey dedicated to research, mentorship, innovation. Her expertise in aging and mental health led her to train at the International Institute on Aging, UN in Malta and Salzburg, Austria. She became an expert advisory to the Aging and Health Division of the World Health Organization in Geneva. Her contributions not only shaped national policies, but also earned her a place on the global stage as a thought leader in aging studies. She successfully guided 15 scholars towards their PhDs, including our own chairman, Professor Srinivas M. Sir. Her academic contributions are unparalleled. Over 200 research papers, more than 20 books and monographs, and countless chapters in edited volumes. Her ability to make psychology accessible extends beyond scholarly circles, as she has authored several books in Kannada, ensuring that knowledge reaches the wider audience. More than an academician, Dr. Indira Jai Prakash, ma'am, is a visionary. Her work has transformed the discourse on aging, shaping elderly care and active aging initiatives across India. Her insights is not just theoretical, they are deep-rooted in real-world applications. It is a distinct honor to introduce such an extraordinary scholar and pioneer. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our esteemed keynote speaker, Dr. Indira Jai Prakash, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My introduction is longer than my speech, because I know that lunch hour is nearing and all of you must be really hungry. Anyhow, it is a pleasure to be with all of you. Golden Jubilee is not something common in everybody's life. It's not an everyday event. And I'm so glad to meet so many young, not so young, a little old colleagues and friends. And I suppose I must be the eldest here. So bear with me. Today, on this occasion, I was asked to give a keynote address. Usually, a keynote speaker should stand behind the podium very gracefully and read the keynote. But I'm sorry, I'll break the tradition, because being a teacher, I would like to talk to you directly. Listen, the more you clap, later will be your lunch. So, okay, now today the topic I selected is future of psychology, need for professionalism and advocacy. So very briefly, let me talk about what I want to convey to you, some of the random thoughts. See, psychology, as you know, is at present facing what you can say is a sea of changes, wave of changes. There are geopolitical upheavals which are affecting human beings, causing human misery. There are unprecedented social changes that we had not imagined. And of course, there is technology, AI, and lots of digital invasion into your life. So something may be peeping into your bedroom or any other room for that matter. So you know that these are all the things that are causing lots of changes in the field of psychology, and what we studied or what we thought was psychology decades before may not be the same today. So the landscape is changing drastically. And psychology as a discipline has several challenges to face. How can psychology transform itself into an inclusive discipline so that it can attend or it can pay attention to cultural diversity? How can psychology strive towards more broader and deeper understanding of human behavior so that its findings are generalizable? Because generalizability is one key point in science. How can psychology build in or weave ethics into artificial intelligence? How can it assure or ensure digital safety or data confidentiality and all such issues? So basically, all these issues, they challenge psychologists, and their main task, if you are interested in human behavior, and if our interest is in maintaining or enhancing human well-being, all these issues become relevant to us. So how can psychologists address this challenge? Basically, it is by enhancing our professionalism and advocacy. What do I mean by professionalism? Professionalism was a very, very positive word at once upon a time. In between, for various political, social reasons, it became a little questionable or problematic. But basically, by professionalism, we mean what psychologists are supposed to do, their professional behavior. Honesty, integrity, working within ethical guidelines, and then making sure that there is no harm to the client, and then ensuring well-being of the people under their charge, and then disseminating information. All these are part of our professionalism. Professionalism is not just a thing. It's not that, it's not the way you dress or the office you have or the way you communicate. It's much more than that. It is not only a combination of qualifications or ideas or qualities. It is also a contract we have with the society that as a profession, we will do everything possible to enhance human well-being. That's a commitment which we make as professionals. And professionalism also involves diversity, inclusiveness, and equity. Please remember, these are the three things that are very important, especially in nowadays: diversity, inclusiveness, and equity. Equity is not the same as equality. Equality is when you serve the same food to everybody. Equity is when you put the food in a jar so that a crane with a long beak can eat it, and then a plate for a fox. That is equity. So, respecting diversity, inclusiveness in practice, and equity in our approach, these are very essential for professionalism. This is what professionalism means. For professionalism, to be professionals, of course, we have lots of information coming out from APA and all that. There are guidelines for everything, multicultural and so on. But usually, what do we depend on? We depend on research. We get information about latest information and whatever we require for our practice from research. And from where does this research come? Recently, about 4 months back, there was a very good report, maybe all of you should read about it. Some 15 researchers, scholars from 13 different centers, mostly non-dominant countries, they have brought about a report which has several interesting features in it. The knowledge base for psychology, it comes from mainstream Western journals. And they found that these mainstream Western journals, the reports that come and the research that comes is heavily skewed. It is non-representative. And they say that hardly about 5% of the population of the world is in US. And if you combine Europe and all that, maybe about 11%. But then 95% of psychology knowledge base comes from these mainstream Western journals, which they find cannot be generalized because the sample is not representative. It is culture blind because it does not address for example, there is only 1% of African, Latin American representation in the sample. It is not generalizable. It is culture blind. it is topic blind. How many Western mainstream journals have you seen where you come across solid research on topics like honor, shame, caste identity, kin ties, magical methods of treatment, or community loyalty? We don't come across these. That means the topics are also skewed and there is no inclusiveness in it. So what is happening is, in spite of all this, most of the research world or the academicians implicitly or explicitly accept the findings from these as universal. Even though it's not representative, we accept it. So this is the state of affairs of what forms the basis for our research and practice in the non-Western world. That's why they say that maybe we should think of more representative sample, larger sample, including different disciplines, cross-cultural disciplines. Otherwise, what will happen is we will end up with what we call helicopter research. That is, somebody, privileged company or somebody gets a funding and they do a study without taking the local reality into consideration. Or we end up doing correlational research, like relationship between anxiety and achievement. Incidentally, that was my MA dissertation. So I plead guilty. But that was 50 years back. So why should we repeat the same mistake now? Lots of water has flown under lots of bridges since then. So we have to upgrade our research and we have to look into the guidelines that are already there for multicultural studies, multi-center studies, and how to conduct research on marginalized and minority groups and so on. Now, this research is very important because there should be some sort of association and the coordination between research and practice. Whether you are a teacher, researcher, administrator, or therapist, or counselor, your study should be based on solid ground. Psychology has a major problem. First of all, we have to explain human behavior, whatever type of behavior it is. And that explanation should be based on solid ground, what we call empirically or evidence-based data, evidence-based information. If our work is not evidence-based, then we are no longer professionals. We are not different from quacks or charlatans. If we are doing what we think is right, or what we think is counseling, what we think is mentoring, what we think is therapy, we are no better than quacks because our work is not evidence-based. So first task is to create this evidence base and then see that there is no gap between research and practice. Because now you know that most of you may be counselors, you may end up as therapists or administrators, whatever. You know that now the field of intervention, whether it is physical or mental health intervention, is facing diverse problems. The first problem is there is a proliferation of non-professionals. Everybody and their aunt has a therapy in their name. Everyone has a therapy, and then the problem is we don't know whether it is doing more harm than good to people. And there are lots of people who say that they are doing therapy or intervention or counseling, and we have no way of controlling or supervising it. The other problem is social media. If Instagram or TikTok, you will find lots of self-proclaimed mental health experts who will post different types of therapies as the cure for everything. And you have no control over it. Because let me tell you, you do this experiment, go home and post in whatever media you are, say that, do you suffer from intense anxiety? If yes, follow this simple remedy. Stand on your right leg, lift your left hand, and take 3 sips of water. Believe me, by tomorrow there will be 100. And those 100 will forward to another 100. And day after, it will come to my WhatsApp. So that is the way things move around. The reason is always trends are more popular than scientific rigor. We are all looking for quick fixes. We are all looking for solutions. We all want shortcuts. So what happens is, whatever is given in the media, social media appeals to us and we accept it indiscriminately. This is another problem that we have. Then we have the problem of artificial intelligence. If you listen to any of the transcripts, let me tell you, it sounds so empathetic, so knowledgeable, and you see, why not? But then we have a problem with that. There are trust issues. First of all, can we trust the machine? Can we trust the system? More than that, can we trust the humans behind the system? Because if the humans behind the system is a small minority group, once again, what they feed in is not representative. Once again, it may reinforce several biases that are already there. So these are the problems we have. So how do we regulate? What do we do about this? This is where advocacy comes in. There was once upon a time what was called scientist-practitioner model. Most of you who have studied clinical psychology will remember this. Scientist-practitioner model was touted as the model for all psychologists. Now it has to be scientist-practitioner-advocate model. What is it? Advocacy basically. Advocacy basically means informing and assisting in decision making. How do you make decisions? You need good information, right information to make right decisions. And psychologists, as with their skill, with their expertise, with their communication skills, should be the ones who are providing this type of information. So now, if psychologists have to make themselves relevant and push the boundaries, they have to take active part in advocacy. What does advocacy involve? First of all, it is educating the public. Why don't we take psychology to the masses? Why don't we simplify psychological concept, not oversimplification, real what we call nuggets of wisdom, real solid findings, real results, proven results that are going to impact the lives of people, and then share it with the public. Because public is misguided by lots of social media. So if you can share it, the understanding of people about psychology will also increase. They will understand the importance and implications of psychology in their lives. And then we have to use our voice. If somebody writes a 200-word this thing, saying that all psychotherapy is bogus and psychological assessment is a joke, then you also post a 200-word statement proving how it is not so. And give solid reasons or data to say that it is misinterpretation or maligning a particular field. Because there will be lots of people, lots of critics who will find fault with psychology. That's why you find that sometimes social science research funding is always low. Because very often people think that it's not really worth doing. It's not really important, or they might have read somewhere that it's not useful. And then be proactive, get in touch with, do some lobbying. Like today, I'm happy that there was a minister here. If you know your elected candidates, your local people who have elected, educate them, tell them about hardcore research practices and how it may be useful for them. You know, once upon a time, there were lots of criticisms about psychotherapy also. That is why we have to become more professional in therapy. They had an acronym called YAVIS for young, attractive, intelligent, social, etc. Then they said, why don't we have hound? Humble, old, unattractive, non-verbal, dumb. Now the world is no longer binary. The type of clientele you say is also very varied. There is nothing like cisgender and other. You have lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, uncertain, queer, etc., etc., etc. You just don't have troubled families. You have replaced families, relocated families, abused families, refugee families, traumatized families, families in war zone, etc., etc. What I'm saying is the situation, the landscape is becoming so complicated. If we allow ourselves to be overtaken by social media or by non-professionals, we are doing injustice not only to our particular profession, but to ourselves, or to the clients also. So, since we do not any longer live in a binary world, in a multicultural, where we have to think of minorities, marginalized, other cultures, and we need to be sensitive to all these issues, it becomes very important that we not only educate ourselves, but also educate people about it, so that we share whatever knowledge we have from multicultural work or transcultural work with people in general. Lobbying is very important. Talking about psychology to others is very important. It is what is called as an elevator pitch for psychology. That is, you make psychology more visible to people. You make psychological valid results more approachable, or see that it reaches people so that they also become educated. So educating ourselves and also educating others is very important. And advocacy, I think each one of you can be advocates in your own way. Your teachers, your managers, your administrators, your counselors, your mentors, your therapists. You yourself can be advocates. So, for example, when you go to whether it's a PTA meeting, or whether it is a ladies club meeting or a Rotary meeting, whatever, see whether you can somewhere bring in psychological knowledge and educate people about it. And there are hundreds of apps that people follow. Health, mental health, social communication, and so on. Has anyone verified the usefulness of it, validity of it? Why don't we involve all these in our research? There is a comment that much of the Western research is called weird sampling. Westernized, educated, industrialized, rich, democratic. That's the type of sample. Why don't we shift from that to local, more culturally relevant, more relevant for practice, that type of research? Why don't we shift to that? Why don't we talk about this? And you people can also be gatekeepers, in the sense, if you're an administrator, or if you're a research reviewer, or if you're in a funding group heading it, or an editor, for example, you can always see whether you can make sure that the content that is relevant, content that is useful, is sort of allowed to pass through. And psychologists should also get into the media, both written media and the visual media. Because the reports say that 85% of what you see is a rehash. The same lurid story about murder or acid or chopping of the body or something is again and again and again rotated on the media till some people get into either copycat crime or get into trauma, some sort of stress disorder, or get into some sort of disturbance. So maybe having more psychologists in media could also help us in advocacy. So basically what we need is evidence-based practice, for which we require research that is more broad-based, and therapeutic or mental health interventions that are culturally sensitive, inclusive, and that attend to diverse population. Now, what is the future of psychology? There is no future of psychology as such apart from you. You are the future of psychology. The work you do, the contributions you make, what type of advances you make, what you add to the existing knowledge of psychology, that is the future of psychology. So there is no future of psychology apart from you and the people you train, the students you mentor, and the people you help. So with these few words, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak. And wait, I have not finished. I think I am the senior most person here, oldest person, right? So, in the traditional Indian way, I bless all of you. May you have health, happiness, success, and above all, peace. Live long and prosper.